One. Go. Okay, go.
Hi, my name is Eric Wallace. I'm the Vice President of the Board of Directors of the Goshen Farm Preservation Society and also the head beekeeper at our apiary. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about the apiary and some of the parts of what makes it go here at Goshen Farm. It's one of the attractions that I think draw people out here. They're always wondering about what's going on with the bees and how they're interacting with the garden, and I get a lot of questions about the health of the bees especially. The apiary was started in 2016 as an Eagle Scout project, actually by my son, Lyle Wallace. Originally it was constructed on the lower field here at Goshen Farm, and in 2018 was moved up to its current location. The bees benefit especially from the shallow water pond that's here next to the apiary, as they need a constant source of water for them to actually build and use the honey that's inside of the hive itself. So what I'd like to do from here, we're going to walk over to this area right here next to the hive. I'm going to show you some of the tools that we use inside of the hive, and then we'll talk a little bit about the hive itself. So if you want to follow me. For those of you that are joining us live or on Facebook Live, if you have any questions as we're going along, feel free to drop them into the comments or the chat. We'll be monitoring that as we go along, and I'll be happy to get back to the questions as we walk through the presentation. So some of the key things that we need as we're working through hives. The most, you can see I have a lot of tools. The most important thing is some kind of protection. So for the beekeeper, we use a suit. The suit is typically some kind of a thick material of jacket, and then it has a veil. The veil lets us see and at the same time not get stung by the bees. I'll put this on a little bit later just so you can see what it looks like. In addition to the jacket, we have a set of gloves. We have hive tools, and in this case I have one that has a J bar. The little J allows us to actually get down and hook the side of a hive, and that allows us to bring it and release it and take it out of the hive body itself. I have another hive tool. This one happens to have a J on the other side and a little bit different just material in terms of how it connects in. A frame puller that lets us, once we get the frame loose, pull it out so we can attach to the top of a frame and then lift it out of the box. A lighter. The lighter is used with our smoker, and the reason that we smoke the bees is if we put a little smoke in there, they actually will think that they need to go grab a little bit of honey and that they should be preparing potentially to swarm. They go have a little honey snack, and that honey snack actually calms them down a little bit. So it helps us then to get in there, work with the bees. As long as we don't blow too much smoke on them, they are comfortable with that. And in my smoker, I happen to use primarily pine needles. They're an excellent burning material, and they produce a lot of smoke, which is perfect. So smoker, lighter, and then a bee brush. This bee brush happens to be super soft. If you have a frame that has a set of bees on it, you can actually brush up. That causes the bees to fall off of the frame, and then we can take a look at what's going on the frame. And then I have a marker and a little container that I can catch a queen inside of. So I like to mark my queens. I usually use the color green. Some people use a different color for every year. But it allows me to quickly identify and find the queen inside of a hive, which is important to keep track of. Do I have a queen? Is she still laying? Kind of all of those things are important in terms of just maintaining the bees and keeping them healthy. Just make sure real quickly I hit all the tools. The other things that you might have in terms of tools would be books. just to kind of read through and make sure you're getting a better knowledge as you're getting older, or more into the bees associated with, you know, how they're doing, what the stages are, where they at, what potential problems maybe you're seeing. And then the other things that we'll talk about are woodenware. And then a few other tools are feeders, and the feeders really come in associated with things like putting sugar into the bees and stuff like that. It's something that we do. We'll take some of their honey, we'll replace that with sugar water. The bees use the sugar water, and they'll put together their stores for the winter, and we'll do a little bit of a replacement or a trade-off. In terms of the actual hive itself, the hive, as you can see over here, there's several of them. We'll do a quick close-up on them, and then I'll talk about it. The hive is made up of a bottom board and an entrance reducer to reduce that down to a smaller entrance, and it allows us to determine you know, how big we want that to be. For the winter time, we might make it super small. For the summertime, we might open it all the way up so the bees can get as many bees going in and out of the hive as possible to bring nectar in. And then on top of that, you see a hive body. On top of that is another hive body in the case of the one out here. And then we would put a queen excluder, then we would put a super, and the supers are where the honey lives. And then on top of that, an inner cover and an outer cover. And I'll show you those over here real quickly. So the bottom board, this sits on the very bottom. It's typically screened. On top of that, we're going to put a hive body like you see over there. Once we get the hive bodies up to the level that we want them to be at, we'll put a queen excluder on there. And as you can see, this has a mesh. The smaller bees are able to get through and up and down through this, but the queen is large enough that she can't actually make it through this queen excluder. So she stays in the lower brood chamber, is what we call the bottom two boxes, and lays eggs there and continues to grow the brood, right? And then the bees that are storing nectar will go up into the upper part, which we call the honey supers, and they'll put honey up in the upper part. Then we have an outer cover, and we have, an inner cover and an outer cover. The inner cover has a hole on it, and it just allows the air to come up through the hive, and so they're getting ventilation kind of all the way through. Inside of that hive body, what you'll see is these frames. This is a frame that has nothing built on it, and it happens to be a plastic frame in this case. The plastic is coated with a wax, beeswax, and the bees then start building off of it. And you can see the manufacturer of this frame puts a little bit of an imprint at the start of a honeycomb. They wouldn't even be required to do that. The bees would build that out either way once they started building on it. And you can see this is one that's actually completely built out. The cells that are down here are actually a little bit smaller, and the cells that are out here are a little bit larger. These happen to be worker cells, and these happen to be cells that are associated with drones. And we'll talk about those two types of bees here in a minute. So that gives you an idea of what the frames look like. The frames would go into a hive body. This happens to be a hive body for a nucleus colony, so it only holds, in this case, 6 frames, and the frames just drop down right inside of this. The bees live down inside of here between the frames and are able to deposit, you know, eggs into the frame itself, or nectar, or water, or honey, or pollen, or whatever they're bringing in. Everything gets stored inside of one of those cells. All right. A little bit of just high level on the types of bees. So inside of a hive, there are 3 castes. One is the queen, one is the worker, one is the drones. The queen's is fed royal jelly when she's when the egg is just starting out, and as she starts to go through the process of becoming a larva and pupating, that entire process she's fed royal jelly, and all of her life in fact she's fed royal jelly. The queen will emerge in 16 days. A worker takes 21 days to emerge, and a drone takes 24 days. So every one of the castes have a little bit of different time frame in terms of how long they take to be produced. The queen can live as long as 5 years. The workers typically live about 40 days, and the drones somewhere in that 40 to 60 day span as well. Queen's responsibility and what she does in the hive is to lay eggs. She can lay up to 1,500 eggs in a day. The workers get broken into kind of two different families of things that they do. Those that are inside the hive clean the hive, maintain the young, feed the queen, do all of the activities associated with rearing and turning nectar into honey, basically fanning the honey to get it to the right level of dryness. All that stuff is the responsibility of those that are inside the hive. Typically, when a worker is born, it'll spend the first 20 days inside the hive. After that, the second 20 days of its life, it becomes a forager. The foragers go out, they look for nectar, they bring back pollen, all of those types of responsibilities. And then last, the drones, their core job is just to mate with the queen. So there'll be mating areas that the drones will fly out to daily. The drones will spend their time out there hoping for the chance that a queen bee will come out and they'll get a chance to mate with her. In terms of who has a stinger and who doesn't have a stinger, the queen has a stinger. She never loses her stinger though, unlike the worker bees. So she can sting you potentially multiple times. It's very rare for the queen to actually sting an individual. She typically uses that stinger just to remove other queens. So if a queen cell is being formed and she doesn't want that queen to be released, she'll get rid of that queen. The workers, if they use their stinger, they actually will perish. They only get a sting one time, and the stinger is removed from their body and causes them to die. And then the drones have no stinger. So if you see a drone, you'll recognize them. They have larger eyes, they have a bigger body, but you can handle them without a challenge because they don't have a stinger. The queen and the workers actually overwinter. So if you come out and take a look at a hive, during the winter time, the bees actually are inside of there still. They don't hibernate. The ball of bees that is the colony will start to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and they stay together and actually overwinter. The drones actually get kicked out of the hive in the late part of the fall, and no drones are carried through the winter time. They'll make new ones in the spring, and that's how they'll move forward. So I have a few cool facts, unless there are specific questions. Barb, do we have any questions online? So just some cool facts. The bee is the only insect in the world that makes food that humans can eat. I get asked a lot of time by people who come out to the bee yard, is there one queen that rules the entire apiary, or is there a queen in every one of the separate colonies or sets of boxes? So you can see here we have 7 hives that are currently set up. Every one of those hives has a separate queen inside of it. So there'll be 7 queens right now. As we break them up potentially into even more hives, as we split some of the hives apart, we'll end up introducing additional queens, and typically we get up to about 10 to 12 hives during our colonies during the course of the year. Some other fun facts: bees can travel at a speed of about 15 miles an hour, so that gives you an idea of how fast they can move. And they'll go anywhere from 5 to 10 miles away from the hive to potentially get nectar to bring back. They have to visit 2 million flowers to make 1 pound of honey. So that's a lot of, you can imagine, as we talk about pollination and how that happens, you have to hit it just a ton and ton and ton of flowers to get enough nectar to make that pound of honey. So that's how the pollination happens. And then each of these beehives in the middle of the summer, when they're at their top capacity, will have about 80,000, anywhere from 50,000 to 80,000 bees inside of it. So that's a lot of bees. Bees communicate through pheromones, and those pheromones tell the other bees either what to do And they also have a thing called a waggle dance. They use the waggle dance to point or tell other bees where the best source of nectar is right now. So those bees that are foraging have an idea then where to go and go and look for that nectar. In terms of honey, we typically get about 200 to 250 pounds of honey each year off of the apiary, and that honey is sold at Goshen Farm events and online through our Facebook page, and that allows us to bring in it allows the beekeepers here to bring in some additional revenue associated with that. If you're interested in being a beekeeper out here at Goshen Farm, please drop me a note, or anyone who's on the board of directors. We'd be happy to reach out to you and get you involved and spend some time. So I know a lot of people wonder about, how can I come up to Goshen Farm and when can I come up? There's a gate at the entrance to the farm. If the gate is open, feel free to come up. You're welcome to come up and walk around on the farm. If you like what you see and you're interested in becoming a member, please do that. If you go to the Goshen Farm page, there's a membership button. You can click on that and join. The membership is $35, and it's an extreme bargain in terms of being able to come out and enjoy this beautiful area as part of Cape St. Clair. So I look forward to seeing you all. Hopefully you'll come out and spend some time at Goshen Farm.
How about the box, Eric? Do you want to talk about what that little box is?
Yeah, this little box is what we call a nucleus colony. So instead of being a hive body like that one where you have 10 frames, this one happens to have, in this case, it's 6 frames, but typically they'll put 5 frames in here, and a box that contains sugar typically, or some kind of a sugar material, or even a sugar syrup. And this nucleus colony has a queen, and it has a full set of frames, and allows us to do like a starter colony. So if I want to do a split from one of the other hives, I can do that split by putting a set of bees potentially into this nucleus colony, letting it grow up inside of this nucleus colony, and then from there transfer it into a full box if I want to do that. And a lot of times these are the way that some of those splits are overwintered, and then we're ready to use them in the spring. So that's what this box is.
How about your outfit?
Oh yeah, I was just going to give you an idea of what it looked like with the beekeeper suit on. If you ever see anyone out here with one of these on, feel free to drop by and chat with us. We'd be happy to tell you about the bees. And as you can see, some important features. It allows me to cover all the way up here. If I flip up the veil, I can get protection now around my head, especially, which is important. But I have pretty good visibility, and I can see everything that's going on in the hive, and then I can zip these shut. So even if a bee lands on this, if they try to sting, they'll have a hard time stinging through. And then typically I'll either wear a set of gloves like this. These happen to be made out of a leather in the same type of material as the rest of the outfit, or I'll wear a couple pairs of neoprene gloves. Those work pretty well as well in terms of just keeping the bees from being able to sting through. If you drop out, there's a signboard out here. The signboard actually gives a little bit more details about the hives, the life cycle of the bee, what the different bee casts look like, and things like that, some of the anatomy. And one of the key things up here is there's a picture of things that are a bee and things that are not a bee. I get a lot of people calling me thinking that they have a group of bees at their house, when in fact it's bald-faced hornets or some other type of wasp, and actually not a bee. So, but if you do see a swarm, I'm happy to help remove swarms. So if you see a set of bees and you think it's a set of bees, feel free to reach out to anyone, like I said, on the board of directors, or give me a call directly. I'm happy to come and help remove that as well. All right, enjoy your day, and we look forward to seeing you all out at Goshen Farm in the near future.
I don't know how to stop it.